Okay. Looks like that worked. So here we go. Okay, so ISLA is our electronic safety and licensing application that replaces what the state had been utilizing since 1999, which was a program called Regulated Objects. So it was well overdue for replacing. So as we've been going through this, though, ISLA's been implemented in pieces, program by program, and like with any other built from scratch software system, there are still a lot of bugs and still a lot of things we're working through. But again, we'll get through it as best we can right now. But as we go through this, I will even point out that there are a couple of things that we should be seeing soon that are in the works to help make things better. Okay, now let me see if I can get my program to advance here. And I'm not sure why it's not. Oh, there we go. I think okay. So isla.wi.gov is the site for the ISLA dashboard. If you are already set up, which I've gotten all of the primary applicants on the for each location set up and in the system. So they should be able to go in here and enter your email address in here. And if you haven't gone in there before, if you just enter your email address and then click forgot password, it'll send you a link to reset your password, and you do that, and then you should be able to get in there. We find that it's a little bit easier to get everything set up and associated if I take and set you up ahead of time. It doesn't mean that you couldn't have somebody create a new login. If they're going to do that, then they want to use DSPS customer to create their new login, because all of your buildings are already in our database. All of the accounts are already in there. So we don't want to set you up as a new customer because you're not a new account. But then you should be able to follow the prompts. If you have any problems with somebody logging in, if they just want to shoot me an email, I can get them all set up and associated in a couple of minutes time and start there and kind of save a lot of aggravation for people, especially if they're not overly tech savvy, which even some of my people are that way. So so one thing to remember on here, and it does remind you right away on the front page, if you can use Chrome as your browser, the system works much better with Chrome, so that's certainly advised. It doesn't mean that it won't work on Internet Explorer or Foxfire or any of the other ones, but if you're having problems with it, switching to Chrome will quite often correct those issues. Okay, so these are the accounts that I have set up. And I believe Mike just recently replaced Bill Owens in the list of contacts. So I have these people set up with these email addresses. You can disregard the codes that I have underneath those. Those are actually were for my purposes on this spreadsheet that I created. So it just helped me to link everything up with you guys. But one thing to be aware of is whether your email address is in there as the full wisconsin.gov or as Kurt's is in here with wi.gov. You can see as well on here, we have for John Zerger's account, his login is actually under the name Milwaukee National Guard Permit Contact. And that's what I would call a generic login. There are some advantages to using something like that. If there's a shared email box and you have a couple of people who share that, for instance, my elevator program, there is a elevator tech box and all of the elevator inspectors and the plan review person and myself all have access to that email box. There's advantages to that because if one person's gone or on vacation or retires, then you've got built-in backups in there. The other reason for doing a generic login, such as this one with Milwaukee National Guard, is that if and when John were to leave, retire, whatever, I could go into this contact and just update the email that it's associated with, and that will associate all of the permits that are under National Guard permit contact to that person's email. When I switched all of Bill Owens over to Mike's name, I had to go into each one of the permits one at a time and replace Bill with Mike. So there are definite advantages to having it set up this way. But for the most part, I mean, if you guys want it set up that way, you let me know, because I can certainly change these and modify these to whatever will work best for you guys. So like I said, if you have a shared email box and you want to have it directed to that, and if you want to change the actual name of the login, we can certainly do that. So that kind of goes by how people prefer it. But when there are multiple locations and multiple units involved, then quite often using a generic login or a shared email is the best way to go. So I'm going to go through the dashboard. We'll go through the permits on there, printing permits, the fees and the shopping cart, and then the public lookup and a couple of other items on there as well. So we'll start with permits. And so this is what your dashboard should look like. I've actually used Mike's dashboard as the example on here. And the first thing you'll see on here is all of these permits listed down here. And you'll see this long string of letters and numbers on here. So this is actually the permit number going forward. Every single regulated object has an individual permit number assigned to it now. So you will see on here in most of these cases, so I handle elevators, boilers, refrigeration, and gas systems. So that's what you'll see in the examples here. But as you can see on these, EC, if it starts with an EC, that means it's an elevator or a conveyance. Okay, so you will see any elevator or conveyance will start with EC. The next four digits actually are, this one was brought into our database in April of 2016. That's where you get the 0416 from. And then the next five digits are just the computer generated numbers that distinguish it from all the others that were registered on 416 or 4 of 2016. And then the PTO on here tells you that this is a permit to operate. The CC in this case stands for commercial conveyance. And then similarly, when you go down here on a boiler, boilers and pressure vessels will all start with PVS because a boiler is a pressure vessel. They will all start with PVS. Again, this one was registered in February of 2001 and then was given that additional number. It's got a permit to operate, and this one, the B3Y, means it's a boiler on a 3-year permit. Okay, and then you can see this one, and we'll see further examples as we go along here. But all boilers and pressure vessels will start with PVS, all elevators with EC. Refrigeration units will start with REF. Gas systems would be with GS. Plumbing or PB, and so on and so forth. So also listed on here is your project name, which you can see is pretty much the site name of each location. It'll show you the status of the permit, which I see this one's actually incorrect because if the permit expired on 4/15 of 2021, this one should show expired instead of active. So again, part of the elevators all were migrated over from regulated objects just in April of this year. So we're still working some of the bugs out on some of the statuses didn't migrate over correctly. But you can see the expiration date here on those as well. And the initial page is only going to show you like your first 6 permits. So if you have more than 6, you need to click this blue view and search all permits link. And then what you'll see is a little bit different look of your list view. And it'll show you the identifier on here, which is actually your tag numbers. So most people that were involved in it in regulated objects are aware of these state ID tag numbers, which are probably what you're using to identify most of them right now. It also gives you the expiration date. Nice thing in here is you can search by that tag number. So if you've got 10 pages full of permits, and some of you guys might, instead of scrolling through all of them to try to find a specific tag number, you could enter it up here in your search window and find it. You could put in a search by the project name as well, and that would work too. You can also click on any one of the items up here to have it sort by that column. So if you were just looking for expired ones, you could click by expiration dates and it would show all of the expired ones first because it would start with the oldest date. Okay, so then when you're on the actual permit, you can click this caret or chevron and it will bring up some options on the right or on that drop down. The ones that you guys will use most often would be to print your permit and the accident report. Right now, some of these other ones, they will send in a service request to us to change the name or try to schedule a piping inspection, change the status, change the address. Really, all they're doing is sending us an email saying, you know, we'd like to make a change to something in here. We don't find that too many people have utilized these as of yet, but the ones that have been used the most are printing the permits and the accident report. So if you do click on accident report, it brings you to a completely different section in here, this is very similar to our plan review submittal process. And you just go through this and start entering stuff and save and continue, and it'll take you through each one of these areas. And you just follow all the prompts and enter all the information. And when you get to the end and click submit, it sends an email directly to me saying that this accident report's been filed. So that way you can file a specific accident report on that specific regulated object. Obviously, the ones that I see more often are elevator related, but we do get occasionally, we do have boiler or refrigeration related accidents as well. So one of the problems we've seen is that if you, or two of the problems that I have listed in here, the most regular ones are, you can see on this one, this unfired pressure vessel has a expiration date of 2022, so it should be valid. But yet when I click on the drop down, print inspection or print permit is not one of the options. And the reason for that is that this was a 3-year unfired pressure vessel. And so that one had been done back in 2019 prior to when we even started ISLA. So the permit itself was never actually created in ISLA. So in order for this to show up for you to print it, I have to go into our back office and create that permit physically, and then it would show up as an option in here. So going forward, the next time it gets the next time it comes due for inspection, that won't be an issue, but it's just those that were hanging out there and the permit hadn't been created in ISLA. We run into that problem. The other problem we get is you'll get if you do get the print permit and then you click on it and you get insufficient privileges. Either one of those, if you send me a quick email with it, I can fix it very quickly. And the insufficient privileges one is that there's an association that needs to be fixed. And one of the major problems that we had from the old database that was carried over from the old database is that a lot of accounts are in there under multiple different names. So we tried to get you associated to all of them, but if for some reason one object ended up under a different account that was spelled slightly differently, and we didn't catch it when we were doing the associations, that's what would cause this. So again, it's kind of growing pains of getting the new system all updated with the migration from the old system. So again, if you run into any of that, just shoot me a quick email and I can fix it really quickly. And this is what your permit should look like when you get it. So you should be able to click that print permit and actually get a copy of the permit that you can then print, and it should come out as a PDF. So you could print it or you could email it to somebody as well. Going into the fees portion of it, the shopping cart is listed in the upper right-hand corner of your dashboard, and you'll see a number in there that would correspond to the number of different fees that are in your shopping cart. Okay, and then clicking on the shopping cart will open up this section here, where then you can see which fees you have. If you click on this chevron, and unfortunately, I couldn't get my snip tool to take it while it was clicked down, but you have an option on here for all fees or renewal fees or permit fees, I believe, but you click the box to select what you want. Most people, especially in your positions, would just click all fees and it'll list all of the fees that you have, and it'll show it like this. So in this case, Mike only had one in his shopping cart, but if there were multiples, they would all be listed exactly like this right underneath here. And then he could click select all fees to pay them all, or he could pay them individually by just clicking the, whoops, didn't tend to do that. By clicking that box, it would just allow him to pay that fee. So a couple of things that are of interest on here. So the tag number, again, it's a migration issue, but at some point there, we've got a bug in there to fix it. The tag number should show up on here to tell you, to help you to identify which permit number goes to what tag number. Cause that's, you guys aren't used to these numbers yet. So we asked to have the tag number on there. I believe they're also going to add in here the project name on here so that, again, you guys can see exactly which, you can easily identify which permit you're actually paying for, because this isn't the most user friendly right now. The other option that's coming that they're working on is that if you did not want to pay your fees online, that you could do a select all or select certain ones, and there will be a button up here that will allow you to add them to an invoice. So you could actually create an invoice and then email the invoice or print the invoice and send it to your accounts payable or however you guys do it. Right now it works really well if you have the ability to pay it online, or if you share the login with your accounts payable people if they can pay them online. So when they do that, if you were to click a fee and then click continue, then you would get this screen on here, which would again get you to your total amount and ask if you want to continue to make your payment. You click continue, and then you'll get this box here, which is the e-payment box, which again is pretty self-explanatory. So another option on the dashboard, and so this is, this would be what the top of all of your dashboards should look like. Dashboard will always take you back to where your permits were listed. Your shopping cart, obviously, we went through. And then this is the public lookup. So in the public lookup, you could look up and try to find all of your objects at a specific site. Unfortunately, it makes you choose the program area. So you could look up all of your elevators at a specific site or all of your boilers at a specific site, but you can't get them all in one list. That's another item that we've got an ask in there for the developers to create, but isn't there yet. But when you're doing these searches, I always tell everyone, less is more. If you're not 100% sure on the search, put in as little information as you need. And then you can always refine it later on. So if you're looking for elevators and conveyances, and you could enter in your business name, or it might even be better to just do your street and city and then click search, and it would give you all of them that show on that street in the city you're in, and then you could refine it from there if you need to. The other thing you can do is you can search by your tag number. So again, being that that's what you guys utilize probably more than anything to identify your objects, I would suggest that if you've got the tag number, that's the easiest way to do a search. So in here, I would just choose boilers and pressure vessels. By this tag starting with a B that's a boiler. You enter that in there, click search, and you'll get this screen right here, the top one, which will show you that exact pressure vessel. And then you also have the option to view more details. And as you view details, then you get all of the specifics on that boiler. And there's actually more in addition down here than I fit on here, but you've got all of the specific information in here. It also will include the last 5 inspections will be listed at the bottom there. If you're doing a multiple one, or if you're trying to get all of your boilers in one building or all of your elevators in one building, it might be worth your while to click download when you're on this screen. So if they're all listed, you've got 10 of them listed on here, you could click download and that would put it into a Excel spreadsheet for you, where then you could sort them however you want and you'll get all of this other information that's in here all on that downloaded spreadsheet. So that's just a way that if you've got multiples in one building, that might be a better option would be to use the download. Okay, the last option on here is the inspector lookup, which allows you to put in a program area and the county and then see who would be assigned for that inspection. The flaw in this is that on elevators, boilers, pressure vessels, there's a combination of entities that provide the inspections. So I believe in all of yours, on your boilers and pressure vessels, Liberty Mutual does the inspections on all of yours. This would not reflect Liberty Mutual on here if we chose boilers and pressure vessels. What this is reflecting are places that don't have a private insurance company or don't have a contracted elevator inspection company. Then these would be the third party inspectors that are assigned to that county. Essentially for people who don't have private contracts for their inspections. So again, for you guys, I'm pretty sure that all of your boilers and pressure vessels are all under Liberty Mutual. I am not 100% sure who does your elevator inspections, but there are some private elevator inspection companies as well. So before you would utilize the inspector lookup, you would want to find out if you guys use a contracted inspection company. So the actual permit process, excuse me, is that 120 days prior to the expiration, the applicant or the contact that we have set up, which were those 6 gentlemen I had on the initial list, they will get an email notification that that item is due for inspection. Okay, and if they're all on the same date and you have 4 elevators in your building, you'll get that notification. You'll get another email for all 4 of them, telling you that it's due for an inspection. The substatus on the permit will then change, will go from nothing, which most of them are at when they're active. There's no substatus in there. The substatus will change to pending inspection. The permit will remain active until it hits the expiration date. Once it gets to the expiration date, if a new inspection hasn't been processed to advance it, the permit will then show as expired. So once it gets inspected, then the inspection company submits their inspection report electronically into ISLA. So you do not need to send any inspection reports into the state or do any submittal of inspection reports. Those are all done by the inspector. Okay, so they enter in their inspection, whether it's approved or in violation. If the inspection is approved, the permit to operate fee of $50 is generated, and the applicant then receives an email notification that says a fee has been generated for this permit. Please go in and process payment. The substatus of the permit will change to additional fee required, so that on our end we can see that that's where it's at. So you guys have been emailed that there's a fee in your shopping cart, and when we see that substatus, we know exactly where it's at in the process. Okay. We do not invoice you for the actual inspection in most cases. The only time that we do is if a actual state inspector comes out there and does your inspection. But in elevators, boilers, refrigeration, gas systems, the majority of the inspections are performed by third-party inspection companies, and they bill you for the inspection outside of ISLA. So the only time you'll see an inspection fee in ISLA is if the inspection was performed by a state-employed inspector. Okay. So if it comes in as in violation, the permit won't, or the status of the permit won't change. It will stay as either active or expired, and the substatus will remain pending inspection because it's obviously waiting for reinspection of the violation that had been cited. Okay. When you pay the fee, that's when the expiration date and the status of the permit update. So if you're looking at one where there's a fee on there, it's been inspected and the permit still says expired. Verify that there's not a fee hanging out there. If it's been a couple of weeks and you're wondering why it hasn't updated. So always look for the outstanding fee, because if once the fee gets paid, if everything flows through properly, when the fee gets paid, the expiration date will move to the next year, and the status will update from expired to active, and the substatus should disappear. And then what will happen is ISLA will actually create that permit right then and there and email you a copy of the permit. So you'll get a PDF sent to you, or to the applicant will, right away. Once payment is done, you should see, well, it might take it overnight for processing, but you should get an email back with that permit to operate. The permit will then also be available that you could print additional copies later off of your dashboard. So we're hoping that would, many times in the past we had people who somehow the permit got lost or fell off the wall and got thrown away, and then they wanted a new copy of the permit. So being able to print them off the dashboard should help with making that a little more convenient for everyone. So each of you guys, I had sent a spreadsheet that I would think Peter probably forwarded to you guys, that had all of the active objects assigned to you. I have made some changes in there since that one, so I will send you guys each a new spreadsheet. I have all of your emails, and I'll just send you your specific one of all of the items that are assigned to you. And then you can make any corrections or modifications on there or inquiries on it, and email them back to me. Especially if there's an object that's missing, let me know, because again, it might be just that, like I said, some of the accounts are in there multiple times, and maybe one just didn't come up in the search, or something's just whacked out that is kind of hiding it from me. But they all are in our database, but there may be a few stragglers out there that are just hard to identify right now. So I will send each of you guys a spreadsheet on there. I did go through and ran a search the last couple of days to try to capture any and all of the elevators, because I believe the original spreadsheet I had didn't have all your elevators on them. So I think I've got it pretty clean. But again, I will send each of you a spreadsheet that'll show that to you. And so that's it for my presentation. Let me actually pull up ISLA here. And I'm actually going to log in as Corey. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so Corey, this is what your dashboard should look like.
Yeah, and it does look like that.
Okay. So on here, it's showing currently right now that you have no outstanding fees. Although it does show that you have some expired permits. And if we click on this, search all permits, we can see that you have 7 of them total.
Yeah, I got a lot more than that, and I do have the spreadsheet where I've got the ones that are expired when they were inspected.
Okay. So the spreadsheet you got most recently, Corey, does that have just these 7 on it as well?
No, I got a lot more.
Even on the spreadsheet?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
got 22.
Okay.
Plus
Then
no 23.
Then I will have to take a look at that one because there's definitely some association issues missing on there. But again, we'll get it fixed.
Okay.
So Kim, this is Burl Boone, and I came to the party late, but initially when we were first talking to you and all that about options and so forth, where Liberty Mutual went around, did inspections and so forth, and I already had the LAMB reports and so forth, and that they, you need to go here. And when I was going there, when I was trying to renew those permits, that's what I was trying to explain, is that when you click under that options tab, and I'm where you are right now in my account.
Yep.
But I'm where you are, like in Corey's. The option, even though it says at the top of the page, it says to renew, edit, or update your submittal, please click on the caret. So I click on the caret, but there is no renew option in there. Does that tab show up when that permit, when you guys finally get the inspection report saying it's okay to issue the PTO?
No, that renew is in there for some of the other programs. You actually renew it.
Okay.
The dashboard user actually renews it. I think most of that is cross connection related.
Okay.
Because on cross connections, the inspectors actually use this to perform their renewals.
Right.
So if you were on this real early, like 2 years ago, you probably did see a renew option in here too. And you would click on it and it would take you to nowhere. So we had it removed from there.
Sure.
But we probably should do something about the wording on here. So you guys don't renew your permits. The inspection process is what renews the permits on elevators, boilers, refrigeration, gas systems.
Right. So then early on when we were there, and I had like 11 PTOs that were done and ready for issue, and if you recall, that I had a hard time getting into there to even see the permits so that I could pay for the PTOs. And then you had just dropped them into my cart. So and I know I wasn't here early and you may have talked about that, but I'm assuming that now when Liberty Mutual sends it in, says it's okay to issue PTO, the dashboard is automatically going to drop that into the cart, and I just go to the cart and pay for it and then print that PTO.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
So and in that instance too, because again, you've been a user on here longer than most of these guys probably. Yep. You sent me some of those inspections, and we had some. Obviously when we switched over from the old system to the new system, there were inspections that were kind of in limbo. So when you sent those to me, I processed them, and just by me processing them in the back office, which is my side of it,
Sure,
that's what created that fee and dumped it into your cart then.
Okay, so I've got 3 that are recent. So, and I'm going to be, periodically checking. I should just automatically see them in my cart now, right?
Yes, you should.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Okay.
Right, because I mean, I know I noted, and I know that me and Corey were talking one day, is that our screen doesn't look like anything where we can just click on dashboard like yours or like Kurt was initially. So we weren't sure if we even had the right screen, but now I understand the process.
Okay. Yeah, this is what your screen should look like.
Yep. Yeah, I'm on the same thing. Since I logged in here, and I know I was late for the meeting, but I logged in, got into my account right away, and started following along, clicking along with you. So
yeah. Okay. And so again, I'm just saying that It's not 100% perfect yet either. So
We know
don't
where
be
you work.
afraid to don't be afraid to shoot me an email with, hey, how come this one doesn't show? Or, I thought this one was inspected in, back in 2020. Why would it still be showing expired? Just shoot those to me. I have no problem. If I can't figure it out in the back office, I send it over to the inspector and say, hey, have you guys, did you guys do this inspection? Did it somehow not get here? And then we figure it out. So,
Right. So,
just part of the process.
so going on, a little bit of your knowing and all. So we have an inspector go out and they inspect our boiler. How
Mhm.
soon after that, typically, do you see them submitting the PTO when we're good and we pass the inspection? We have the inspection. I get an LEMB report. I've been sitting on a couple of them for a few weeks now, yet they're not in my dashboard or in my cart yet. Is it probably because you haven't received them, or is it that it's not entered in the system? Or, I mean, what are we looking at from a timeline from inspection versus I get the report from Liberty Mutual from the inspector, right?
Yeah.
Versus, because I get that report and I go, oh, I'm going to go to eSLA, I'm going to log in, I'm going to pay for that PTO, but I've done it for several days now. It's still not there.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't reached out to the inspector yet, but I'm just wondering, typically, what do you see or what do you notice? How does that? What's the timeline for that?
I would assume that most of the inspectors get them entered within a week.
Okay.
Okay.
So my
So I
inspector's
would
not
probably give
doing
them
the
a
job.
week, for that.
Okay.
And then there is one issue though, that if they come in and they have, and something isn't matching, so the system has some built-in verifications that it does.
Sure.
So it looks to make sure that the site name is the same and that the tag actually matches the permit number. And in the case of a boiler, it actually verifies that we've got the national board number correct,
Mm-hmm.
so that we're making sure it's updating the correct one. And if something doesn't jive, it kicks it into an exception log, which kind of puts the inspection on hold on our side for
Okay.
somebody to manually look at it. And so
Okay.
we've got a
Okay.
little bit of a backlog on that, on the processing of those exception logs. So I would say if you have one that's gets to be 2 weeks old, shoot me an email
Sure.
and let me take a look at it, because then it's probably in that exception log. And
Okay.
I just need to look at it, fix the minor error and send it along.
Yep. So then I guess that one of the questions would be, is one of the exceptions then an expired permit?
Say that again?
Is one of the exceptions in the system an expired permit?
No,
Okay.
no,
All right. I
no.
just
So
figured that
even if
maybe
it's
that was one of them.
expired, so one thing to always remember too, and this is a frequent question we get from all users, is so this one shows a date of 10/7 of 2019. If that gets inspected right now, the next permit, it's a 3-year permit.
Yep.
The next permit's going to be issued to 10/7 of 22,
Right. Okay.
regardless of the date of the inspection and whatever. So, you know, and that might go more to your question about whether, expired ones come in as exceptions. So instead of, we don't automatically issue that new permit to the new date, because otherwise it would kind of be your incentive to
Delay it.
delay them.
Yep.
I'm gonna wait until the fire department comes out here and tells me to get it inspected, and then I'll get a new permit for 3 years to that date, and actually wait another 5 years before I do it. So, I mean, and that type of thing, and not that that's what anybody's incentive is here, but that's just what sometimes happens. So the odd cases are though, if let's say, like on here, we've got 10/7, 10/7, 10/30. If I were processing these, if these are all, well, these aren't all in the same spot, but let's just say they're all in the same building. To me, it makes a lot more sense to have them all expire on the same date. Right? So you get your notifications for all 3 of them on one day. The inspector knows when they're all due. They can come and do all of them. Not that an inspector comes out, does these first 2, and then a month later finds out about this one. So if we're consolidating dates, that's another thing. If you guys look at these lists and you say, hey, can we get all of these onto the same date? Let me know. I'll work with you to get it there, because that, again, it saves you guys time, it saves the inspectors time, it saves all of us. So, if you guys want dates consolidated, let me know. What we see with elevators sometimes is that, an elevator will, well, see, and that was a bad example because I had two boilers and an elevator not inspected by the same people. But elevators, when they get really old and go bad, sometimes they can be down for 6 to 8 months while they're being modded. So if in that case, if they've been out of service for a year or a year and a half, when we issue the new permit, we try to issue the new permit then based on that, on the most recent inspection date. That's the exception to the rule where we move them. Okay. But again, if you guys have a bunch of boilers in one building and you want to get them all to the same date, let me know. If you guys do planned outages where you have your inspections done and you prefer to do them in June instead of these in October, let me know. I will certainly work with you guys to make it work with your schedule and just make it easier for everybody. Not that I want to see us changing them every year or every 3 years, but my hope is that we get them all consolidated one time through, and then we should be good going forward. Any other questions?
This is John Zerger. So as far as the naming, I know some of them may not have the naming configuration that we can just look at it, might not have the city on it. I saw there was an option to rename. Is that for that we could just
What I would do is do that on the spreadsheet I send you. Just change it on the spreadsheet and send it back to me, and I can update them. That'll be easier than trying to go in and do because if you do it you'll have to do it on each one and send in a service request. Whereas let's say you wanted this project name changed. If I change it on the project name, it'll change any of them that have that same project name. So it'll be a little bit easier if I do it in the back office that way, off of a spreadsheet instead of, going forward, maybe in a couple of years, the best option will be using the change name option on here. But for right now, first time through here, I would say mark it on your spreadsheet with all of the other changes you want at one time, and let me try to get all of them squared away right away for you.
sounds good.
Anything else?
Yeah, Kim, this is Corey. So I do have the spreadsheet updated, but I am going to change the project names on those so that I'll have it re-updated for you probably this afternoon.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, and what I'll do after I get them all updated is I'll create a new spreadsheet for you and then send it to you. Because it's easy for me on my back office to just dump it into an Excel file and send it to you, send it right back to you, and then you can, again, verify it. And if something changes, just let me know.
I did have one other thing. This is John. You were talking about like the name on my account. So if we do that instead of have the superintendent's name, you can name them by area, DMA area 1 through 6.
You certainly could.
And that's something we would do ourselves, or you would?
Well, as long as, I would say as long as Peter's your supervisor, right? Or, as long as he's okay with that, just let me know and I can change it.
I'm not their supervisor, but I'm okay with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever works for you guys, honestly.
I concur that we should do DMA area 1 through 6. So
Right.
That
Yes,
makes the
bro.
most
I
sense.
second
It's nice
that.
and clean.
It makes, yeah, exactly. It makes more sense. You don't have to worry about changing names with new personnel, all that kind of stuff. They just get a login. I'm area 5, and then you reassign it to that new name, that user.
That makes it a lot easier on my end too. So
There we go.
I got no problem with that.
So if we have the name changed to those, can we have more than one email to that account?
No, the only way to get more emails is to have a shared email box. That's another item that I've asked for, but I think that one's going to be a ways to go yet. But what I can do, so if you had like a accounts payable person or something that might want to get on there, I can create a different type of an administrative contact that will get a dashboard. But when they go into their dashboard, they're going to have to click Manage Business because they won't be assigned to any of these permits. But when they go in here, it'll actually list out all of the permits that if I associate them with an account, it'll list all of those permits and they could manually click each one that they want to see on their dashboard. Or they could just leave them all in their back office. It would list them all out here or under this manage business side. All of their permits would list out here instead of on the dashboard. And like I said, they could move them to the dashboard. It's just, it would give them the ability to see all of this. It just wouldn't be on their dashboard unless they click them all to move them over to their dashboard. But they could see them all in this managed business organization.
Would they also be able to pay them?
I'm pretty sure that if they're shared in there correctly, they should be able to see the invoices as well. But that's something I think we'd want to test.
Is that something I originally wanted, was budget and finance to take care of paying these permit fees and such?
Okay. Do you want to pick, was that you?
No, that was John Zerger.
Oh, John. So John, if you want to send me the email for that budget and finance person for your group, and let me add them on yours as an administrator, and we'll test it out and see how it works.
It's actually an email account that we send all our okayed invoices to.
So that would be, everybody would get it, or they would get all of yours.
Correct.
Okay.
Is that something that seems feasible to you guys?
So let me do it this way though, John. Let me set them up just with your associations first and see how it works for them too. Because if I get them associated with everybody's, that might be overwhelming right off the bat.
Yeah, so if I can just come in there, so John, the email address that they would send that to would be DMA accounts payable, but there's more than one person who looks in there. So there's going to be multiple people who are going to have to, if they're pulling those, or they're going to have to assign one person that says, hey, when you see an ISLA invoice or whatever, only that one person handles them. You follow what I'm saying? Because otherwise in that accounts payable, there's a bunch of people who actually go in there and look at those.
Correct, but they could all have the password to get to the site, right?
Yeah. Okay. So then we only know when a PTO is coming due to print after we get the inspection report from Liberty Mutual, because we're going to log into ISLA and we're not going to see anything in our account on our cart because
No, it would
the
still
inf-
be in your cart too. If you're
Oh,
the
okay.
applicant, it would still be in
Okay.
your cart.
So we could pay it if we wanted to.
Right, but
I'm
this,
just trying
yeah,
to figure out a way to streamline. I'm kind of with John where it'd be a one-stop shop, but I think there's going to be confusion there
yeah.
amongst the people at accounts payable.
Well, again, if you want to get me one person to try with one of them, we could start there. And then we could see how it works. And if, you know, if they have a shared mailbox or something, might be a better way. A lot of times accounts payable does that. They do have a shared email
Right.
for all of them. And again, if that would work, we could try it out on a small sample size and see how it works for them. And then if they want to keep expanding it, we can. Yeah, the other option would be if, like I said, when they get to the point where you guys can create an invoice off of there, that you guys could create your invoice and send it to them and say, here, go in and pay these.
Right. I know, John, if you want to do it, I mean, that's what I would suggest is have one person try it first, work out the kinks before we get everybody in there, because we get everybody in there is going to be more confusion than we know what to do with.
Right, it might be easier to have it done, area one where they're all right there, but maybe not, I don't know.
Hey, Peter, just throwing this out there, Pete, is, and I know she does a lot, but what if we did it to just Savannah, where Savannah would just have that control? I mean, do you see that as being something that she would be able to do? You know, she goes in there periodically, or she gets these emails saying these are in there to do, and then she can collect them and then just bring them to accounts payable or forward to accounts payable. I'm just trying to figure a better way to streamline it than having a whole bunch of people in purchasing looking at it going, what the heck is this? Because I see
Potentially,
that happening.
maybe we could use her as our guinea pig of sorts, as a proof of concept, making sure the whole system works. And then if it works and we want to change it to somebody in accounts payable, we can do it that way too.
Right. And I think she's the right person to do that with, because she'd be able to definitely tell you it's doable or not.
Yes.
So I have
Let's-
an LTE that works for me, and she processes all the boiler, refrigeration, and gas permits. So yeah, if you want to get me Savannah's email address, we can get her set up, and then I can have Sue reach out to her, because Sue's worked with a lot more of the companies with those types of people, with trying to figure out what works best for them. So I think that would be a good way to go, would be to hook her up with Sue and have them work through it.
I'm doing it right now,
Perfect.
and I might even let her know about it.
That usually helps.
Surprise, Savannah, surprise.
Okay, any other things you guys can think of? I mean, a lot of this is just going to take some time for you guys to get in there and play around with it too. It's not the most intuitive system I've ever dealt with, but it's getting there. It's certainly better than it used to be. So we're making progress on it, but there's a lot more to be had yet.
So Kim, this is Burl, and I'm just gonna let you know I'm gonna send you. So I have several boiler inspection reports that have occurred a while ago already.
Okay.
And there is nothing in my cart
Yep.
for those. So, and you're saying they may be held up because of an exception. So I'm just going to send those to you so you can at least check on them to find out if they are held up or if they've been submitted or not.
Yeah,
So,
if they're more than a couple of months old right now, send me the inspection reports because I actually
these
2
are only a few weeks. I would say
Yeah.
about 3 weeks.
Oh, last week I went through and looked for all exception logs for all of the National Guard sites that I had
Okay, and you found
and
none.
processed what we
Oh, okay.
had. So
Okay.
if it's older and hasn't been in there, yeah, send it to me.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate your guys' patience. I appreciate you joining in on here. And like I said, I'll shoot the recording of this and the presentation over to Peter, and that way, if there's anybody missing, he can go ahead and get it over to them.
Say, Kim, so did you have a special naming convention you wanted to use on our facilities so that they're all the same, not that we're all coming up with different names for you?
Yeah,
Sure.
I would say if you guys want to come up with some type of standard, however you guys want it, I can make it. But yeah, if you guys can standardize it to what makes sense for you, that would be best.
It makes searching a lot easier.
Yes.
Hey,
You guys, Corey, you said you renamed some stuff already, right?
Yeah, I'm actually working on it right this second. I'm trying to get some stuff renamed for the project heading.
So maybe we'll let you pick the naming convention. What are you using? Shoot it out to us.
Well, I'm starting out as just DMA and then area 2 and then location, and then I'm going to put in, like, for boilers, the boiler number when there's multiples. So for like Camp Williams, I'm doing CW, but then like the armories, I'm doing Portage Rapids, etc.
Sure, sounds good.
Hey, so Pete, are you there?
Yep.
Hey, so when he sends out the training materials on this, I mean, would it make sense for you to just put it on a K drive and then tell us where it is so we can go and use it, look at it, review it?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Are we all good then?
All good. Thanks, Kim.
All right. Thank you guys.
Yes,
And,
thank you.
We'll be in touch. You guys, like I said, email is probably the best way to get in touch with me, but you guys can certainly give me a call if you have to as well. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.